Protesting, marching in dozens of cities to protest his past words and actions as candidate Trump. We have an all-star lineup this morning to discuss the road ahead. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Michael McCaul is with me on what he expects from Congress in the coming weeks. Senator Roy Blunt is here, the chairman of the inauguration on this historic day. And journalist Paula Broadwell joins me on the president's plan to combat cyber warfare. Also here with me, Carly Fiorina and Grover Norquist zero in on what Trump policies will mean to you. But we kick it off right now with former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us.
It's good to be with you.
So let's put the week in focus here. What are you expecting from President Trump in the way of executive orders this week?
Well, I think he's going to take significant steps, continuing down the road with moving back Obamacare, taking first steps on immigration. I suspect he will suspend a number of President Obama's policies that were soft on immigration. I think he will also begin moving towards a much tougher trade policy, particularly with Mexico and China. And I think all that's going to come. Plus, I think they're going to go through a lot of deregulation, stripping away a variety of things that President Obama did, for example, in his war on coal. And I think you'll see President Trump rolling back a lot of Obama's executive orders.
Okay, so in terms of the executive orders with regard to immigration, you know, senior officials are telling us at Fox News that it's going to be immigration, it's going to be trade, and it's going to be jobs. And we know that he's going to cap the week with a meeting with Theresa May, the UK Prime Minister. What specifically are you expecting in terms of immigration and trade? Walk us through it.
Well, I think there are two things you can do immediately on immigration that would be very widely accepted. One is to return real enforcement power to the Border Patrol and the Immigration Service and instruct them to deport immediately people they catch crossing the border, which is the opposite of the Obama policy, which has been to allow people to come into the United States and then go through a long, convoluted legal process that never worked. The second would be to put border agents or immigration agents inside big city jails. Historically, prior to the recent sanctuary city baloney, you had an immigration agent inside the jail. So when somebody got done serving their time, if they were illegally here, they never got on the street. They went straight from the jail to the bus and were taken out of the country immediately. And I think that in a place like Chicago, which has had 4,000 people shot last year, getting rid of illegal foreigners who are criminals, I would think would be pretty hard for Mayor Emanuel to oppose.
All right, so before we go into trade and jobs, let's drill down on that for a moment. What could President Trump do to ensure that mayors like Mayor Emanuel actually follow the law? I mean, it's extraordinary to me and many in our audience right now that there is law in place. And in fact, these sanctuary cities have completely blown off the law for so many years.
Well, you know, one of the lessons I learned from President Ronald Reagan is when you have a choice between an 80-20 fight on your side or an 80-20 fight on their side, pick the choice, pick the one that's to your advantage. So let's take the case. This is why I strongly urge them to focus, and he can do it by a simple executive order, instructing Immigration and Naturalization Services to go and reestablish the offices and instructing that they should take criminals when they get out of jail directly out of the country if they're illegal, and then serve that notice to every major city. And this is frankly a public fight he should relish. I mean, if Rahm Emanuel is going to try to defend putting criminals back on the street in a city with 4,000 people shot last year, I think that is in a totally hopeless position with the average person in America. And that's the kind of fight the president should start looking for. Where can he get an 80-20 advantage? I think the idea at the border of blocking people trying to come in, returning them immediately, changing the Obama policy back to what had historically been our normal policy. These kind of things could be done very quickly. They'd have overwhelming public support, and they would set up the right kind of approach to then start building the wall, which is the other thing. He should be issuing an executive order on assessing and instructing Secretary Kelly to look at as Homeland Security, how can they build the wall. Governor Abbott of Texas, who has about half the border, has already indicated he wants to cooperate with Secretary Kelly, that Texas wants to play a role in helping control immigration because they have literally half the exposure of the whole country.
Which leads me to trade. What is the executive order he's eyeing in terms of trade? And then take us through jobs.
Well, to be honest, I don't know what specific steps he's going to take on trade. I think that he is going to be instructing the Department of Commerce and the Treasury and the U.S. Trade Representative to pull together a strategy across the board to reopen things. He may well file an intent to renegotiate NAFTA, which there's a clause in NAFTA that one of the three countries can decide to file and say they're going to renegotiate. He may well do that this week, which will be a pretty strong signal. He may also talk with British Prime Minister May when she comes here on Friday about the possibility of a U.S.-UK free trade agreement. It's a bilateral between the two of them. I think the British would be very interested in that. And, of course, the Canadians, frankly, have an economy that is totally integrated into the U.S. It's really not foreign trade. We co-produce an amazing number of things. And so I think the Canadians would like to find a new way to work with us rather than be involved in any kind of confrontation or struggle over what he may do to other countries.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And, of course, this is all in line with what he has been saying on the campaign trail, frankly. Let me get your take on something Ted Cruz said to me on Friday, Newt, because the truth is the markets have been expecting tax reform in the first 100 days. At a minimum, evidence that, in fact, they're working on tax reform. But Ted Cruz on Mornings with Maria on the Fox Business Network on Friday said to me that they probably can't actually pass legislation on tax reform until the budget reconciliation, the next budget reconciliation, end of the summer, fall. What's your take?
Well, look, I would yield to Mitch McConnell on that. They get two budget reconciliation bills this year. One, I think, comes up maybe in February, and the other one comes up this summer. Although I think it comes up earlier than fall. I think maybe comes up in June. That certainly would be the logical place to do it. The other thing to remember, though, is if they do the right kind of tax reform, you're going to have a lot of Democrats up for re-election next year in the Senate in states that President Trump carried. And if the business and jobs interest in those states, for example, the CEO of Ford Motor Company said, look, I'm going to keep this factory in the United States.
Right.
But I'm doing so counting on President Trump to get the tax breaks and the regulatory breaks that we've talked about. Now, Michigan Democrats have to decide, do they want jobs enough to actually work with Ford Motor Company, or are they so anti-business and so owned by the labor unions that they'd rather give away Michigan jobs and send them to Mexico?
Yeah.
I think that gets to be a tough vote, frankly.
That's a really important point. So how damaging is it that 70 Dems didn't go to the inauguration, that Senator Schumer seems to be stalling the confirmation process here?
Well, let me draw a distinction. The 70 Democrats who didn't go to the inauguration were neither missed nor deeply regretted, and nobody, frankly, cared. And if they feel better about it, good for them. What Schumer's doing is unconscionable. Barack Obama, President Obama, got 7 cabinet appointments confirmed the first day. What Schumer's doing is putting petty, negative, nasty politics ahead of the management of the federal government.
Yeah.
The president has the right to have a cabinet to run the government. And I think people should come down on Schumer like a ton of bricks. I think, frankly, patriotic Democrats ought to be furious. I mean, this whole notion of we're just going to screw you up to prove that we can be partisan at the beginning of the administration is the opposite of what Republicans did to President Obama in 2009.
It's really important. Very quickly, Newt, so do you think Jeff Sessions gets confirmed this upcoming week?
I hope so. He should. I have a sense in the Senate that there are a number of senators going to vote for him because they've worked with him, they know better, and I hope that's true. Although, frankly, Cory Booker's comments the other day were really sad because he'd actually co-sponsored things with Senator Sessions, had said nice things about Senator Sessions, and then felt compelled, I assume, for 2020 presidential reasons to go and be nasty.
All right.
So you can't tell. The Democrats are sort of in a bad mood.
Mr. Speaker, good to see you, sir. Thanks very much.
Good to see you.
Newt Gingrich
Thanks.
there. President Trump making a peace offering, meanwhile, to the intelligence community. Getting heat for it, though. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Michael McCaul is next, weighing in on the president's remarks. Follow me on Twitter, at Maria Bartiromo, at Sunday Futures. Let us know what you'd like to hear from our big lineup of guests this morning. Stay with us as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. Welcome back. President Trump visiting the CIA on Saturday, offering an olive branch after heavily criticizing the intelligence community. But the president is coming under fire this morning for spending the lion's share of his time speaking about the media. Former CIA Deputy Chief of Staff Nick Shapiro tweeted a statement from his former boss Mr. Brennan, former CIA Director Brennan is deeply saddened and angered at Trump's despicable display of self-aggrandizement in front of CIA's Memorial Wall of Agency heroes. Brennan says that Trump should be ashamed of himself. Texas Congressman Michael McCall is the House Homeland Security Committee Chairman, and he joins us right now. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Your reaction to what went down at the CIA?